In today's video, we hike in good weather. We hike in bad weather. But I think it was all worth it in the end for this view. This is the Grizzly Lake hike. Hi, my name is Peng. I'm a photographer and I am a travel addict. And today we're going to hike the Grizzly Lake Trail. We started the hike from the Grizzly Lake trailhead, which is located in Tombstone Territorial Park on the Dempster Highway. There is a large parking area here. It was actually pretty full when we were there because the vast majority of hikers do this as a multi-day backpacking trip and leave their vehicles here. The beginning of the trail follows a creek. It was lush and beautiful, but as you can see here, also very muddy and full of slippery tree roots. At least it was a relatively moderate climb. Amazingly, this was the last water source we saw until we reached the lake. There might be more creeks running in other seasons, but I can't say for sure, so check with a park ranger before you go. We did this hike on September 1st of 2022, on our way to the Arctic Ocean. If you have watched my video on driving tips for the Dempster Highway, you know that I explained why we made a beeline for the Arctic Ocean. And if you haven't seen it yet, you can find the link in the description below. But we made an exception for this hike, and the reason is simple. The weather here is notoriously unpredictable. We, in fact, encountered cloudy skies, sunshine, rain, snow, and hail, all in one day on one hike. Well, the sun is out. I think I need sunglasses, but it's also raining at the same time. Before the hike, we kept an eye on the weather. Since the Dempster Highway is one way in and one way out, we had two chances to do this hike. As the weather looked decent on our way in, we decided to do it first. It turned out to be a good decision because a week later on our way back, the weather in those mountains looked nasty. Everything was covered in clouds and it was probably snowing on the trail. As we climbed higher, the trees started thinning out, allowing the majestic mountains to peek through the gaps. The trail also became steeper and rougher. Eventually, we were above the tree lines, and surprisingly, we could still see the parking lot and Doughboy. But we didn't come all the way here to look for Doughboy. We were there to look at this. Oh my f***ing god, look at that. Wow. So I'm never too concerned about not having blue sky days because you're not going to get this dramatic cloud on a blue, boring, sunny day. Wow. I think that's car backing or truck backing up. Yep, that's right. We could hear the truck because we were barely 1 mile into the hike, and the scenery is already this epic. I can't wait to see what's ahead. At a little over the 1 mile mark, we come to the bottom of a rocky ridge. This is where the really steep climbing starts. The trail is full of loose rock. If you're just a casual hiker, this will be a good place to turn around. You can still get an amazing bird's eye view of the surrounding landscape. If you're comfortable with heights and game for some adventure, continue on. For the next 2.5 miles, we basically follow this ridge straight up. This section offers some of the steepest and gnarliest climbs on the entire trail, but it also had some of the most amazing views. So don't forget to stop and look around. Wow. As we climbed higher, our destination, Grizzly Lake, starts to come into view at the end of the valley. From the ridgetop, we could also get a good view of the valley to our north. There were definitely some very narrow sections with steep drop-offs in this stretch. I can imagine it being challenging if you have a big backpack, but it also makes for some epic photos. This is the most popular trail in Tombstone Territorial Park, but popular is all relative, isn't it? We only saw maybe 10 other groups of hikers, and almost all of them were backpackers, because you can continue after Grizzly Lake to Divide and Talus Lake. If that's what you plan to do, make sure to reserve a permit online ahead of time. We didn't have 3 to 4 days to spare, so we decided to do just a day hike, but in the future, I definitely want to come back here and spend a few days to hike this properly. It's 39 degrees right now, so definitely bring layers, different layers for this hike. I should probably mention, and I know this is entirely based on your personal preference, but I was very glad I had my hiking poles and my heavier but sturdier pair of hiking boots instead of my trail runners. These boots provided good wet traction and much better ankle support on these loose, sharp rocks. At about 4.25 miles from the trailhead, we reached the highest point on the trail at 5,594 feet. I admire the park ranger who hiked 4.5 miles up 5,000 feet just to place a "all dogs must be leashed" sign right here. Wouldn't it be easier if they put this at the trailhead? All joking aside, unleashed dogs can have a significant impact on small wildlife, and on the flip side, there have been cases where dogs were killed by larger animals like bears. That's probably why this sign was placed here. So at this point, most day hikers we met have turned around, but we decided to continue on. That's the beauty of this trail. You can go as far as you want based on your abilities, and even if you just hike that first mile, you wouldn't be disappointed. Now we begin our 3-mile descent into the valley towards Grizzly Lake. Oh, very slippery. Jesus. It's like half on ice. I won't sugarcoat it. This stretch was not pleasant, as we had to navigate through several large talus fields. Oh my god, look at that.
Worth it. And once you get down there, it's not so hard. So it's fun.
Yeah, oh wow. But at least the magnificent view served as motivation to keep going. I think this might be my favorite view on the entire hike. That's Mount Monolith shrouded in clouds behind Grizzly Lake. It's no wonder they call this place the Patagonia of the North. Oh, and of course I have to get my epic hiking shot. At this point, the lake looks so close, but we still had 2 miles to go. This included some very steep descent on scree. And of course, we encountered several more of these talus fields, which significantly slowed down our progress. After what felt like an eternity, we finally reached a shrub-covered valley floor. Oh my god, look at that. That is cool. Almost there, I can see the tents. Just before the campground, we met the junction to Divide Lake, marked by a very easy-to-miss cairn. Continuing on, we crossed the outlet of Grizzly Lake. So if you have a filter, this is where you can also fill up. The campground is just beyond the creek. Wow. Okay, that was not an easy hike, and I only had a day pack on. No wonder all the backpackers we met looked exhausted. But for this view, I wouldn't hesitate to come back here. These platforms look really nice. There are only a limited number of tent platforms here, which is why you have to reserve a spot ahead of time. I'm guessing these platforms are designed to minimize human impact on the permafrost. Interestingly, the last time I camped on one of these platforms was in Patagonia, the real one. The tent sites are actually still pretty far from the lake, so we continued on. But what's not far from the lake are these two giant outhouses. Why the park chose to place these eyesores right here blocking the best view? I don't know. Maybe they wanted to place it near the cooking area so they can haul these wastewater drums out with a helicopter. And I call them wastewater drums, but we all know what's really in there. Yep, you can't dig a cat hole here, and neither can the park dig a pit for the outhouse because of the permafrost. That's why these toilets are on stilts with a giant drum underneath. And if you think that's gross, that's just a price you have to pay to camp at this stunning place. I do know that if I were using these toilets, I would leave the door wide open. So from the toilet, the trail continues. Oh my god, it smells bad. You can smell it here. Twin Lakes Lookout goes that way. Oh gosh. Alright, we were upwind. Now we're downwind. It smells really bad. Thankfully, they placed the kitchen area far away. There are bear boxes and two very nice kitchen tents here near the lakeshore, and some more drums which I assume are for dumping kitchen wastewater. At last, we reached what we came here for, Grizzly Lake. At this point, we were really behind schedule. We still had 7.5 miles to go, which included a 1,200 feet climb. So after a short break, we started heading back. We're gonna have to climb back up to there. I can see the trail. Yep, right there is the trail. Oh, look at that. Now we have to go back. Well, maybe not all the way back. This is why I never give up on any hikes. Even if it rains in the mountains, you'll never know. Like, look at that. Blue sky. Maybe later when we climb up higher, the sky will clear up more and we can take some more shots. Oh, how wrong I was. You'll see what I mean later. The one thing about this trail that sucks is you have to climb back up even if you're going back. So climbing in both directions. Here are the trail stats for the Grizzly Lake day hike. Keep in mind that my numbers might be different from the official numbers. That's because I recorded all the little detours I took on the trail. So it's a more realistic real-world mileage. The sun is out. The sun is gone. We're almost at the highest point right there. So this is the exact same stretch we were at earlier when it was raining, snowing, and wet. Now that it's dry, it's so much easier. What a difference. Yeah, we're back at the sign, which is almost at the highest point on this trail. So from the bottom of the lake, where we started walking to here, is almost exactly 2 hours. So it should be mostly downhill from here. Unfortunately, the blue sky we enjoyed earlier was short-lived. And of course, by the time we got to the most exposed part of the ridge, wind picked up and it started hailing. Hey, Doughboy, I can see Doughboy. Honestly, I was just glad there was no lightning. Yep. This is the worst part because we're on a ridge. Oh, whoever is camping at the lake is definitely getting some rain. But looking at this cloud, I suspect it'll be over in maybe half an hour. I was happy to see I was right. Halfway down the ridge, rain died down. Looking back, it was a glorious sight. Oh my god. At the very end of the day, these peaks put on the show. Wow. It took us another hour of steep descent to return to the parking lot, and we reached it by 9 p.m. Luckily, being so far north, the sun didn't set until 9:30, which meant we didn't even need flashlights. And we got to enjoy the stunning sunset. So that concludes our day hike to Grizzly Lake. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you're planning to hike this yourself, I hope you found something useful in this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing, and I will see you next time.